Okay guys, this is a little quick before video of what the van looks like inside. I'm planning to carpet and insulate the inside. So I have to remove these panels, the quarter panel, the door panels on both sides, and I'm going to sound deaden the wheel wells and try to carpet all of the metal stuff. Just wanted to do a little quick video of what it looks like in the beginning, and you see all of the metal and all of the plastic, and I want to make that a lot less plastic and a lot less metal. So I'm gonna get started on that. Okay, so I've gotten this panel off. We've got a rubber mat here that just kind of sits in there. Electronics, not sure what all of this is for. This is for the trailer hitch, all the wiring for the trailer hitch. I was going to try to remove this, but it's a, we call that like a spline tool or something like that. It's like a 12-point Torx. My father-in-law has those, so I'm going to borrow those to get these loose. But right now, I just wanted to get this apart and see what I'm looking at. So I'm going to sound deaden this. And then they had this taped on here. You can see this, it's like a double-sided tape. That's what was holding this pad on. Now, I'll probably reinstall that pad, but I want to put the sound deadening on. I imagine that this side has the same kind of thing. I don't actually need these because I don't have rear seats or buckles, so I could remove those completely and just not have them. Okay, I've got the wheel wells completed. Both wheel wells are done. I did just a little bit here under the carpet. That was an area that was very echoey when you just tapped on it. The rest of the area seemed pretty deadened already. They have a little bit of sound deadening on the edges and kind of up here in the middle. I felt like it didn't need to be done all over the floor. Also, this floor padding is really thick with a rubber pad to it. So I think just getting this area is where the spare tire goes underneath. And it was really just echoey when you tapped it. If you tap all the other areas, it seems pretty solid. But this area just seemed like, you know, a lot more sound promoting. So I put that pad there. We got this entire area done. Now, something that's kind of hard to see is I cut little pieces and just stuck. It was basically the scrap pieces that I pulled off of here. I didn't really cut anything new. So I just cut the pieces and stuck them in the areas where I could get my hands to. Got some up in here, and actually this area here, like when you tapped on it, it made a lot of noise. And so now everything it's pretty deadened. So I've got it as far up in there as I could get it. I put some behind just on that little piece of metal there, down in the hole here, just wherever I could get it to. Even like on the back side of this piece, I have just some little tiny strips that I just kind of stuck up in there. And I did that on both sides. This one was a little more difficult. I didn't get anything down low because of all the stuff that's in the way. I think that's gonna help. Also, I'm going to do the insides of the sliding doors here, but to get the panels off of these doors is somewhat difficult. This is one piece. It goes from top, folds down to the bottom. Then I did a strip that goes down, and then I laid this piece up there and just cut it along the edge. That seemed to be the easiest. I did the same thing over here. So there's one piece that comes up to like here, another piece that goes all the way down to here, and then I cut just this little section out, and then there's a piece that comes up here, and there's a seam here. So, and that is a little bit overlap. Okay, it's another day working on the van, doing the sound deadening. And so this panel here, we've got a rattle somewhere in the door. So that is a little bit annoying. And these are also really large panels. So I think there's going to be a good chance of killing some sound just by getting some sound deadening in there. What I'm going to do is sound deadening, the sound deadening mat, and then I'm also going to do a layer of rock wool insulation. Right now this one is the problem because it's got a rattle. and I don't know where that's coming from. So I'm going to get started taking that apart and get some sound deadening in there. Okay, so we've got the panel off. You can see they do have like a little bit of sound deadening here. They got this mat, this what do you call it? It's like carpet padding for a house. But you can see this one little piece of mat, and it's really thin. We're gonna pretty much cover the entire thing, maybe even do some of these areas. Got to figure out what's creating a rattle here. It's just at specific RPMs. That's what it sounds like. I may need to pull this handle out and maybe do some fabric or something around this lock mechanism. I do have a drain that looks like that is probably for the latch or the door handle. Either way, I don't want to put insulation where it will get wet. So the drain is over here on this side. I'll just need to see where that drain comes from. First, we're going to get the sound deadening put in, then we'll put some insulation in. Now, removing the door panel, you can remove the top side and the front edge with really no problem. The back edge and the bottom are a little bit difficult. So what I did is I opened up the door and just come up from the bottom to do the bottom ones, and then I go from the back with the door completely open and pop off the ones from the back. And I'm using these two trim removal tools, and they seem to work just fine. Now I do have some new clips. I think all these came off with no problem. They're still intact, so I can reuse those. I'm gonna get started on putting the sound deadening inside the door here. Okay, so I've got the sound deadening inside and as far as I can reach with my hands. Okay, so I pulled the handle out, or the handle cover out, and I've taken this little fabric tape and put it inside the hole here. You can see I did two sides, did that one little angle there, and then the back surface. I hope that will, one, it'll soften any vibration, but it'll also tighten up the lock piece that protrudes through there. So hopefully that helps quieten it. If that is the rattle problem, it seems like it could be. It's really hard to tell because it happens while I'm driving. So I'm hoping that will fix it. I'm also probably going to put some a little bit of this fabric tape on the back side here, where it touches the metal, and that will help kind of tighten it up and also give it some padding. But this tape here is I got this from a friend of mine. He does car audio, and this is what he wraps his wires with, and that helps. Well, one, it bundles the wires together, and it also gives it a softness so that his wires don't rattle while going down the road. So I'm going to do that and then reinstall this thing. You can see here it's got clips on the top and both sides and the bottom, and it really just pops straight out, other than where the latch goes through here and where the lock mechanism goes through. So I had to pop it out at the top and the sides, and then basically pry it out and then up. So it was a little bit difficult getting out. I thought I might break it, but luckily it didn't break. And now I'm going to see if I can get it back in without breaking it. Okay, so here's the door insulated. I put the other door together before I could get a little video of it, but I actually left some off the bottom here. I filled the other one completely full. I think this bottom edge here, it was a little tight. So I'm gonna put this one on and see how it goes on, but just a little bit less insulation. I had the other one come down just a little bit lower, maybe even as low as this part that sticks out where the metal comes up and folds back in. It was a little difficult to get the clips to clip in the bottom. All right, today's the day I'm gonna get some more interior stuff done on the car. I wanna get the headliner pulled down. I want to get some foam added to the ceiling underneath that ceiling panel. I want to carpet these areas that are all blue. I want to carpet those with a black carpet, make the interior just look a little bit nicer, and also give it some sound deadening. With lots of this, with all this metal showing, it makes it a little bit too noisy on the inside. And then having it open, we keep the seats removed until we actually need the seats, so that we can use the back for work purposes, storage, carrying things that we want to carry, picking up things online. So this just makes it a lot easier where you don't have to carry a trailer every time. To do this ceiling panel, I have to take this carpeted piece out. And to do that, I have to remove these side pieces. And to remove these side pieces, I have to kind of work around this package tray. So I may go ahead and remove everything and get the ceiling completely open. Then I can put the foam into the ceiling and then put all these pieces back. Now I may go ahead and carpet these before I put them back in. So that may be part of this video. We'll see how things go, how quickly I can get them done. But the first things I need to do is get these pieces off, which require me to remove the seat belt portion here and let that just hang, and then we'll pull this upper panel off. So the first thing you have to do is remove these clips. They are a Allen key, a hex head. So they screw in or push in. So what you have to do is get the wrench in there and then open up this little gap here, and you put in a pry tool. Now see if I can show that. All right, so you put this thing in there and then you pry it down where you can get the pry tool underneath. Okay, so that's what it looks like. And then once you've got that done, you can just pop that right out. So the first order of business is to take this piece off. So there's a little cover here that you pop off. I'm using just one of these little tiny screwdrivers, pocket screwdriver. You just reach in there and pop that out. You've got a star bit in here, Torx bit. So you'll remove that, and there is a screw in there. Pull this little cap off here, it folds up. And this is a really big, I believe this is a 12-point star. That's gonna require kind of a special tool. Not everybody's gonna have that. And it's pretty big. I wanna say it's like a T45 or a T50 size. So we'll pull those out, and then that will allow this panel to pull out and basically get completely out of the way. That will allow at least this portion of the headliner to come down. I don't think I'm gonna have to take this package tray out just yet, but I may go ahead and do that while I'm in here doing this part of the work. All right, this bolt and this bolt are T25s. The ones that hold the sun liner or the sunshades in is a T20. Once you remove this screw, you will rock it out like that. So you want to just rock it out. It doesn't take a lot of pressure. The grab handles are a T25. Just pop this little door open, and I'm just going to leave those screws in there and just kind of close down that little door. And that way I know those screws go to these. Makes it idiot proof. So to remove the light, you're going to pry on the front edge, and you can see these little tabs go up in there, and then it just kind of clips into place. So you'll pop it loose from the front edge and then pull it out, and you got a couple of screws up in there. Once you have these screws out, there's these little tabs on the side that you will need to pry away, and that's what holds it in place. You don't want to be prying on it too hard. You just basically release those tabs and it'll fall right out, and then you'll unplug this plug. Once you have the light out, you got a couple of screws underneath the light. So these things are probably the most tricky. You can't really tell that there's a cover over there. This is what it looks like before, and you have to get this little cover off, and then you've got two screws hiding underneath that little cover. This is the tool I'm using, getting up in there. So there's the little piece. You can see there is a release where you can get a screwdriver up in there. So I broke one of mine. I broke the passenger side after getting the driver's side off, but you can see it's got 4 tabs in there that hold it in place. It's pretty sturdy on there for such a small piece of plastic. So hopefully I can buy that separately and not have to buy the whole clip. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter if that cover's on there, but this is what it looks like, and I believe this is the front edge. But you'll have to look at it. There's a little tab there. When you're looking at it, you should be looking at this face, and the windshield will be here. All right, now I've got the package tray removed. Now I can take out the 2 pieces here and remove both the front and rear headliners. Now, if you only want to remove the rear headliner, you don't have to remove these parts because your clips are exposed, and then the panel is cut a little bit. There's no clips underneath, so ultimately you don't have to remove this. I didn't take this bolt out because I don't have that tool here. I've got that at my father-in-law's house, So I didn't take that loose, I just pulled this loose. And so you can see that it doesn't require you to actually remove this just to get this piece out. Now it may take a little bit of finagling to get it out. You may have to bend the headliner or kind of reshape it a little bit just so that you can slide it back up in there, or when you go to pull it out. If this piece is out, it makes it easier, but it's not actually required. So that could save you a lot of time if you're just removing this rear headliner. So I've removed all the clips all the way around except for one in the very back and one here in the middle. I'm going to remove this light, then I'll remove the one in the middle, the one in the back, and it all should slide out. Now the ones up here, this is holding the front edge, so it should, once I get the back out, that should just slide right out. This one's just kind of sitting on top of the molding here. This light pops out pretty easy. It's just got two little metal clips that pop it into the headliner, and the headliner is all that this is resting on. So there are no bolts underneath this. All right, so the headliner is out. So you can see they have some sound deadening on here, but it's a really hard sound deadening, so it's not, you can tell it still has like a lot of sound transfer to it. Now once I get the foam pad on here, that will kill a lot of that because it actually glues to the ceiling. But what I'm going to do is do a few little strips of actual sound deadening, and then we'll put our foam insulation barrier up here. All right, so here's the actual sound deadening mat. And what I'm going to do is just razor knife it into the sizes I need. I roll it out, cut it on top of this board, and I can just peel the backing off and stick it in place. Okay, so this is just for a sound check, and hopefully the video will show how much sound it deadens. So this is what it sounds like without sound deadening. Okay, so now this is with a little sound deadening. A little bit different, but not much. So what I've done is I've wiped down the areas where I'm going to put this sound deadening. I've also removed this light. There's a little foam padding that kind of holds the light in place. So I've just taken that off. I don't think it's going to be that big a deal that little bit of foam glue is there. So I'm not worried about that. So I'm going to do one piece that starts over here in kind of like up in the package, or in this little dead space here. I'm going to go all the way across, and that is a full sheet or a full piece wide. This is 500 millimeters wide, and I have about a 600 millimeter space here. Now I could do it more and get it all the way up onto the lip here, but I'm not really worried about that. It is seam sealed here, so that's nice and rigid. I'm going to go ahead and put this piece in, get this piece in, and then I'll remove the front headliner before I put this piece in, because I want to get it underneath this bar here. Maybe just stick a little bit underneath these bars. That gives me just a little bit of support on the roof. There is some seam sealer on the front edge. It seems, yeah, there's seam sealer on this edge, but I want to get just a little bit behind that back edge, and I'll just cut some really small pieces and put in there. All right, so I have the first piece installed, and so just one thing that you want to take note of is the edges of this stuff can be really sharp. I've cut my fingers, it's like bad paper cuts. So it's best if you use a rag just to rub the edges, and when you're rubbing over everything, it slides a lot easier just to have a rag or a fabric glove, not rubber gloves, but something that has a fabric texture to it, and then you can rub it all up. As you can see here, I've squeezed it into the little seams that are in the roof. So it's covered completely on this one, and I had a couple of little scrap pieces that I put up inside this support bar just to kind of give it that little extra without wasting the pieces. So now I'm going to cut the piece for this next layer. I've also got strips underneath this this middle crossbar here. Now what I'm doing to squeegee that out is I've got this small interior tool, and I'm just basically pushing it up in there and make sure it sticks really nice. You can also get up in here with just your fingers and push it, but you can't go very far. This gets all the way to the front, so I'm pushing that all the way in and, you know, prying it a little bit and then doing that all the way across. That gets it nice and stuck. Okay, so this is my foam insulation. You can see here it's got like a plastic covering over a sticky side, so that side is adhesive. This the dark side will be facing down into the car, and I'm just going to stick this to the roof. So what I'm going to do is probably cut this in smaller pieces so that I can fit it in very similar to how I did the sound deadening. And this is just going to add that little bit of extra sound deadening, but also add an insulation factor to it. That way, if we are using this for camping or some other things, then this will help kind of retain heat inside the car. So hopefully this will just add to the soundproofing of the car. I'm probably going to put some of this in some other areas as well, but mainly this was bought for the roof. All right, so the entire back half of the vehicle is done in sound deadening. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and cut the pieces, the foam pieces, and get those put in. So those will also use a little bit of the sound deadening to take this wire back in place. I'm also going to do that with my camera wire, but I want to relocate this. I had put it in here because it was easier. But I think what I'm going to do, there's a little hole here and a hole here. I think this one's going to be better. I want to get the cable into that hole and then get it out here to the back. So the reason I did this is because this was easy to just access and get right into the into this area here. There's a lot of reinforcement structures that I had to work around. So what I want to do is use like a piece of wire and hopefully snake from here up and into this hole. I can use these holes as access points hopefully, and make this wire hide. I've got plenty of wire here, so if I needed to you know, move it around or whatever, but this ultimately just kind of tucks up in here. But once I have the foam in place, everything will be ready to put all this stuff back in place, and then we'll put the headliner back up and you'll never see any of this cable. Okay, so I've got the front edge stuck to the roof. I peeled the plastic back just a little bit to expose the adhesive. I put the front edge against that center brace. So you can see here, I've got it up against the center brace. And now I can peel that plastic off. I'll stick it in the center, and then I'll tuck my sides up into that little shelf area. It doesn't go very far in there because it's so thick, but that way it sticks nice in the center, and then I just work my way out to the edges. Okay, so I've got it smoothed out all over the ceiling. It doesn't fit into the corner, so I'm just gonna round the corners off and fit them the best I can into those corners. All right, well that piece is in place. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut the pieces for these two areas. And what I did here is I cut, this is about 300 millimeters. And this little scrap piece was what was left over, which was 200 millimeters. And so I didn't need to remove the front headliner yet. So I just went ahead and stuck that in. I'll do a little strip here when I pull the headliner down and do the front section. But I'm going to go ahead and put this piece in, and I think I can go ahead and get this piece put in as well. So I've done the same thing with this piece. I peeled back a few inches. I stick it along the edge where I want it to be, and then I'll peel that plastic off and just stick the rest of it on. Now I've kept it shifted to the passenger side because I have this cable system that's running along the edge here. I didn't want to have that to where if I ever needed to remove that, I didn't want to have to cut stuff away. So I've got that where it's still accessible, and over here it is basically kind of tucked up in the side. So this is 1 meter wide, and that's about exactly how wide this is. All right, so here's the sound check. Way less pingy. That sounds really good. I think that's going to make a big difference in the echoes that happen inside the vehicle. Now, if I can get carpet on these areas, you can hear how tingy that is. And if I can get some carpet on there, then hopefully that will deaden that considerably as well and stop any echoes inside the car, because it's no longer a hard surface that the sounds can bounce off of. All right, so the foam is all installed. I've got all the sound deadening installed. I went ahead and put a little layer of sound deadening on the support bars just to add that little bit of extra sound deadening. And so now I want to remove these seat belts in the rear completely, and I want to use the bolts. I have bolt holes here and up here. I want to actually put eye bolts or something like that in there so they're anchor points. Now I'll do that after I carpet, but that will give me some anchor points, so when I've got things in the car I can tie them down and strap them a little better. I have these little hooks in the floor. I have the hooks where the seats go that I can clamp into, and these are also like places that I could anchor to. That's where the rear seats would clip in and hold in, but I don't have these rear seats. I only have the front row of seats. So I can take these out and put something in here that would allow me to have more tie down points, or have a strip that I could anchor to. But I do want to remove these because they stick up quite high off of the floor, so it stops me from being able to push stuff right up to the edge, furniture and wood parts and things like that. These drop below the floor, and these can lean against the wall, and they're much closer than these are. So I'm not really worried about those so much, but I would like to take these out. But they have holes that go all the way through the floor, so I would need to put bolts back in place, and I need to get that thread pattern right. I'm not sure what the thread pattern is here, so I can do that. And the next order of business is carpeting these the areas, the roof rails and the B pillar, C pillar, all of these areas that can get some carpet. But I do want to get this area removed and put my last few little pieces of sound deadening and get the foam up there underneath that part. Then I can put all the ceiling parts back together once I have them carpeted. All right, now I'm going to remove these two panels here. That way I can access the seat belts and get those removed. And then I can start planning on what I need to do to get carpet and finish up the insulation and sound deadening behind these panels. Okay, so you have two bolts, one here, one here. Those are T20s. That's on both sides. And then to remove this panel, you have to remove this lower panel here. And these are T30s. So those are the biggest ones so far. Everything I've done up until this point was T20 or T25, and these are T30. So now I'm going to remove this piece and start pulling these pieces out. Okay, so you can see here they've got these little plastic line-up clips. So those, for me, they popped out really easy. They could be secured in there really well, but you've got so 3 on the driver's side, 4 on the passenger side. And then there's also like little line-up pins that, you know, like are part of the clips as well to kind of help everything line up. You can see these things are inboard a little bit. They're a little bit difficult to get to, but you got 3 up front. You have these little line-up points here that clip into the window. And then you have 3 clips along the back edge. Those are a little easier to get to. You're going to want to pull this gasket loose, and that'll help you see them, and you just get in there and pop them loose. And then you have 2 plugs, one going to the light, one going to the cigarette lighter. You got a clip right in the middle of the pocket that is behind the cigarette lighter. And the seat belt in the rear, you're supposed to like take all this stuff loose and then feed it back through. What I did is I just cut this piece so that I could feed the thing through and get this off, because I don't have a way to remove this just yet. I can remove this piece because it's a big, it's a big bolt, but this one is that I think it's a T50 or a spline, I think is what that's called, a spline wrench. So I'll have that tomorrow, and I'll remove these two seat belts completely. Okay, to remove this lower piece here, you've got two clips at the top, and these edges wrap around and go underneath the seal. So you'll have to get those out of the seal. You can see here how it kind of goes inside the seal. So you got to peel that seal back and get those out first. It'll pop these clips out here, which are at the top. You'll pop those out, and then you pop these two loose, and then these slide down into these little pockets in the bottom. So you want to do top two first. You get them out of break them off the edges here, pull these two clips, then you got two in the middle, and then they just little recess parts down there. Okay, so now I've got the rear gate removed. You can already see I've got some sound deadening already put inside there. I'm going to add some of that foam like we have on the ceiling. I'm going to add a little bit of that in there just to give it that little bit of extra. But to remove these pieces, you have to remove this wiper cover first, which it pops up toward the top of the car, and it has these little lips that catch it onto there. And then there's two clips to that rear body panel underneath there. Now what I had done is I'd left those out so that I don't have to remove this if I want to remove this panel, because there's no need to have these clips in there with that panel being there. So what I'm going to do is carpet that panel and then reinstall it here. But I want to get some of this foam put inside here to help kind of give it some sound deadening and also an insulating factor. All right, so I got my 4 pieces cut here for the rear gate. I got some pieces, the smaller pieces are cut to go back in here. I think I'm gonna have to cut them in half, slide one in the top, one in the bottom, and then I got a larger piece that goes on the outside here. So we're gonna put those in, and then all I have to do is put the carpet on the back panel and put this all back together. All right, to get these pieces in the back side here, I actually had to cut them into 4 separate pieces. I cut them in half this way, and then cut them in half lengthwise, and I had to put a piece in and then put a piece in, because the hole here is not really big enough to get them in with the film on the back. So the sticky stuff just kind of stops it from wanting to go in. So I just had to cut them into 4 pieces and then stick them in randomly. So it's not a completely covered part. I don't know if you can see the gaps there, but it's not that big a deal. You'll never see it, but this piece should go in one big piece. All right, got those pieces put in. I had to cut a little corner out for the bolts there on both sides, but they pretty much go top to bottom, and that's fitting in there nicely, and that has helped deaden it even more. So happy with that. Okay, so I pulled the headliner out. I had to first remove the B-pillar covers and the seat belt, the upper portion of the seat belt. I removed that, removed the B-pillar cover, and then I slid the headliner back. Now you have to go around these brackets here where the little grab handles go. You have to pull the headliner away and around those. And once you do that, it just slides right out. You don't have to do anything to the A-pillars. So I left those in place, and now I have my rear camera wire hanging. And so I have fished a piece of cable from the hole that I wanted to come out of into this hole. So now I can fish my cable up through here, leave it underneath this center brace here. I'm going to go under that center or above that center brace, and I may be able to go above that one, but I can follow these wires. I can just strap it to the current wiring that's there and follow it around to the this is the light that is above the driver. So I'm just going to follow that cable and then drop the cable down through there, and that will make it a lot neater. I may have to unwrap it here a little bit to give me just a little bit of extra length, but that's going to make it a lot nicer, and it won't be popping out here. It'll just be going into the back hatch. So that's going to be nice. And then I'm going to carpet before I put the headliner up. So I'm going to at least get this upper piece of carpet done. I'm not sure if I want to try to make it all one piece or if I want to try to splice it in some areas where it's not going to be as noticeable. That will save me a lot of carpet, because if I carpet the whole thing in one big piece, then I'm going to be cutting out big sections for my windows that maybe don't necessarily need to be, I just need these strips here. So if I splice the carpet somewhere that makes sense, and then I just overlap it a little bit, I think that may be best. We'll see how things work out. I think I have plenty of carpet to do the entire sides all the way forward, enough to do the headliner. I believe I have enough to do everything, even in a solid piece. But if I don't need to do that, then I'm going to just splice it together. So right now I'm going to get these cables run and make those look a lot nicer. Okay, so I snaked that wire up through here. I've got it routed all the way forward. You can see here where I've taped it to the existing wires a couple of times. I used some duct tape, like real aluminum duct tape, to kind of tape it in place. And I took all the excess and rolled it up in a big roll. It's probably 5 or 6 feet that is extra there that I've got just tucked into this front cross member. And then it's coming back out of the cross member. Got it taped in place. And now it's all plugged in. I taped my power wire across and along the edge here. So that's in place and secure. And so now I think I'm ready to put the headliner back in, but I want to carpet the headliner first. So it's looking good. It's nice and a lot less pingy. You can hear. Might need to figure out there's something vibrating over there. So I want to try to get any vibrations that I want to have those taken care of, and before I put the headliner back in. If I can make it vibrate, then driving will make it vibrate. So so far so good. So that does it for the sound deadening portion of this video. In the next video, we're going to do some carpeting and get the headliner and all the parts put back in with carpet on them. It's going to be really exciting to have that all done, because I've been waiting for a long time. So tune in, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys.